Here to Chew Bubblegum with Goose.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Goose, and with me is Cronkite.
Hello, Goose. How are you today?
I am good, buddy. I am good. We are back at Bunker Studios. I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time since I've actually recorded at Bunker Studios, and this is one of my favorite places to record. What do you think about it?
It's exciting. I'm glad to actually get to do a show with you. It's going to be pumping.
I have looked forward to this. I've actually wanted to do shows like this for quite a while. Hopefully, this will turn out to be a regular thing for us. To get started, our question of the week responses, I'll go over a few of those responses. We had a tremendous response to that. And I'm not going to read all of them. I'll start out by reading some of them. Our question of the week from last week: do you think the United States government will disclose the existence of UFOs and or aliens in 2021? What do you think about that, Cronkite?
Well, I don't know if it'll be 2021, but I think it's coming sooner than later. And I believe that the media and the government and all of these, Hollywood and everything are setting us up, easing us into the transition to disclose it. And I think it's all one big master plan to show, hey, we aren't alone. They've been here for a while.
I think I kind of share your outlook there. Without talking politics, because we don't talk politics on this show, right. We have a situation at the highest elected office right now in the United States, and I think that by next summer, if it's not worked out to where somebody, is not in office, I think that person has a habit of tweeting a bunch of things, and it is untelling what they may tweet.
It's hard to say what'll come out of that because Twitter can be your best friend or your worst enemy, right?
Exactly. Well, our good friend of the show, Bobby Akers, his reply was, nope, there's no money in it. And I kind of agree, with Bobby, just a little bit there. We had a listener named Shirley Anderson said, no, unfortunately not. We had a listener that goes by the handle Natural Philosopher, said at any point between now and 2024. If not, after 2024, the window closes. So
I'll be interested to know why they think that window.
Yeah. Those were just a few of our listener responses. We'll have more of those throughout the show for you. We will be giving our new question of the week towards the end of the show, but you can always call, text, or leave a voicemail by calling 606-373-3396. That's 606-373-3396. You can email me, Goose, at heretochewbubblegum.com. That's Goose at heretochewbubblegum.com. If you have any news tips or other interesting or weird X-File type stories, you can email Cronkite and give them your email address.
It's Cronkite at heretochewbubblegum.com.
Cronkite, we had some listeners actually text. We also had some listeners that left voicemails, but we're not going to play those on the show because, keep it clean. We're trying to reach a broader audience and not go into the blue or explicit categories. Sure. So, damn and hell are not cuss words. Feel free to say those. Those are expressions. Cronkite, read our first listener email.
All right, this is from the Lone Gunman, and it says, awesome show, Goose. Excuse me. I'm glad that you're back and feeling better. Love the interview segment, and I'm a fan of deadpit.com. I look forward to the Art Bell tribute shows that you talked about.
And thank you very much, Lone Gunman, for texting that. Again, you can call, text, or leave a voicemail. It's simple to do. 606-373-3396. That's 606-373-3396. We also had a text from someone that goes by Bearded Sisters. They said around the age of 12 or 13, they saw their first UFO. It was at midnight, and it was a time for our dog to relieve himself in the front garden. As always, I looked up at the night sky, which was cloudless. Amongst the stars was a sharp, bright light, which was zigzagging all over the sky. No one was in a plane or helicopter. Living close to the airport, I knew well on that topic, and it stayed there for about 90 seconds before shooting off at incredible speeds. This happened in the northwest of England area. This was my first of many sightings. Thank you very much, Bearded Sisters and Lone Gunman, for texting us at Here to Chew Bubblegum. Well, Cronkite, we got cold weather in our area coming in next week. I dread it. I'm not a fan of snow.
No, not at all. I'm a shorts and Hawaiian shirts kind of guy myself.
I don't necessarily go for the Hawaiian shirts. Magnum PI look like
right.
you do.
Well, you know.
But I do like shorts and T-shirts.
Absolutely. No, this time of year, I like fall. Fall's nice. It's a nice transition, but winter is not. That is not what I like.
You know, for next week's show, I'll give you a little homework if you don't care.
All right, sure.
Why don't you look up what season has more UFO sightings reported?
Oh, that's interesting.
Whether
Okay.
it's winter, spring, summer, fall.
Okay. Well, if I could venture a guess right off the bat, I would say winter. And the reason I would say winter is because of the sky is clearer.
Right.
But I'm probably wrong by looking at your face right
No,
now.
I have no clue what the answer
Yeah.
is. My answer would be summer, simply because I like summer, and I tend to do more sky gazing at night during the summertime.
Because it's warm, right?
So,
Okay.
but that's an interesting fact.
Okay.
So
I'll definitely check it out.
we're going to take a short break and come back with our new segment. Be sure to stick around. You're listening to HereToChewBubblegum.com. Do you have a Roku device? Do you want to escape the everyday? Then download the Edge TV. That is the Edge TV on your Roku device, spelled capital T, capital H, #3. Let James, Stacy, Greg, and the rest of the gang keep you entertained. The Edge TV, available now on Roku.
Are you a horror movie fan? Yeah, I dig horror movies. Are you searching for a great internet horror talk radio show to listen to? Why, sure, that sounds quite spiffy. Then you need to tune into deadpit.com. It's the original horror talk radio show. Dead Pit is a show by the fans and for the fans. Uncensored and unbiased opinions are the goal of the show, giving fans honest reviews on new films and vintage classics of the horror genre. Make deadpit.com your #1 horror station destination.
And welcome back to Here to Chew Bubblegum. We're going to start out our first segment of the show with a new ongoing series that we're entitling The Truth Is Out There. We'll be talking about UFOs, unclassified documents, UFO crashes. This is the first week of the series, and we're going to be talking about Ronald Reagan and his obsession with UFOs. Are you aware of Ronald Reagan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Are you aware of his obsession with UFOs?
I was not aware of his obsession with UFOs, but that makes me like him so much more.
Okay.
Because
Well, just to summarize some of the stuff that I have researched on Ronald Reagan, and I wish I'd had time to highlight this. I'm not going to read it all. And stop me, going through here if you have anything to add.
Okay.
Before Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States, he was a Hollywood actor, and he had two separate UFO encounters of his own. The first one was more of an alien abduction case. The exact dates of this encounter are unknown, and the incident happened somewhere between 1967 and 1975. While Ronald Reagan was serving as governor of California, he and his wife Nancy were on their way to attend a Hollywood-type party. By the time they arrived, unbeknown to them, they were an hour late and had a strange story to tell. The story states that they were driving in their car on the highway, and they saw a strange light flying on the side of their car. Reagan stopped the car so that they might get a better look at the object. Both he and Nancy viewed the strange lights for several moments before continuing on their way. Speculation is that the missing time Ronald and Nancy Reagan could not account for was proof of an abduction encounter. Whether Reagan pursued any type of hypnotic regression therapy to recover that time is unknown. That's his first experience.
Wow. That's wild.
And that's actually documented. I can't remember what celebrities were at the party, but you can read that they were an hour late and that him and Nancy was disheveled. They didn't realize they were an hour late.
Well, it makes you wonder, as someone of Ronald Reagan's stature, his reputation, what would he have gained from making that story up?
Yeah, especially as governor of California.
Exactly.
He wouldn't have gained anything.
Absolutely not.
If anything,
he'd have been ridiculed.
Yeah, he would have been, at that time, like you said, he would have been ridiculed. He would have been made fun of.
Absolutely.
He might not have been elected governor again.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, that's interesting.
All right, his second incident is more precise and straightforward. In late 1974, while flying to Bakersfield, California, a strange bright object became visible to both Ronald Reagan and the pilot on a private plane, Bill Panther. The strange craft remained at their side for several moments before vanishing at an alarming speed. Neither man could offer satisfactory explanation for the object. As you might imagine, many of these theories concerning Reagan's time in charge of the United States, a time when America was without question the dominant economic and military power on the planet. Now, Reagan created the Star Wars project.
Yes.
Okay. Now, that plan was sold, if you believe more than the surface stuff, that plan was sold to the people of the United States and the Congress as a defense against the Soviet Union during the Cold War. But some people think it was actually a protective measure against known hostile extraterrestrials, at least according to some researchers. What's your thought on that?
I 100% believe. No, all right. So I believe that. I don't know if it was necessarily against hostile extraterrestrials, but I do. I will say that, he was probably on the right path by saying there's a lot out there that we don't see.
Yes.
As far as space rocks, debris and comets, rogue planets, black holes, whatever, we don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're only watching, about 10% of our sky
yes.
at any given time?
Yes.
I mean, I think, he was onto something there.
Now, let me, I've got more of the Reagan stuff to go over here, but let me throw something at you real quick. All right. Reagan's vice president was George Bush, who was a former head of the CIA before he was vice president. Before, the elder Bush passed away several years ago, he made a comment when somebody asked him about extraterrestrial life. I can't remember what the exact comment was, but he was older at that time, and I think he had a little dementia. So some people just pass it off, some people don't. He said that they were something basically like they were already here, they've been here a long time, or people couldn't handle the truth. It was something along those lines. But he more or less did, and like I said, a lot of people don't believe it.
Right.
I know Art Bell talked about it on one of his Midnight in the Desert shows. But I should have done research exactly to find out what it was. But there's a few more things in the Reagan thing here that will, kind of blow your mind.
Well, just from the, not knowing as much. Obviously, you've researched this.
Yes.
Not knowing as much as not diving into it, just kind of hearing what you were saying there. That's the conclusion that I would make. But I mean, here's the thing: the guy wouldn't have gained anything.
No.
I mean, he's got to be onto something, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you think about the elder Bush being the head of the CIA. He knows things.
Oh yeah,
or new things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not it can't be a secret in that circle of folks. It can't be.
Right? No, not at all. And I totally agree with you. This next one here, I'm just going to talk about. It was back in 1985. Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev had a meeting, and they were having diplomatic talks. They took a short break. Okay, and this information didn't come out until 2009. This when it finally came to light. They had interpreters with them. And Reagan basically asked Gorbachev if we had an invasion that targeted the United States, would Russia help us? Okay, now, why would you ask the second, Russia at that time was the second highest, superpower, you had the United States and Russia. He asked him, during their break from the diplomatic talks, if we had an alien invasion, would you help us? we need to come up with a way, if something happens, that we notify each other that, hey, we didn't send off a nuke and accidentally nuke each other. And Mikhail Gorbachev told him, yes, that they would help us. So, okay. Now, that brings up another thing. If Reagan didn't know something, why would he ask him that?
Exactly.
Okay. If Mikhail Gorbachev didn't know something, why would he say yes?
Well, and yeah, you look at this is right around, this is the Cold War.
Exactly.
You don't reach out to your enemy and ask.
Exactly. Okay. Before we go to 1987, we're going to stay in 1985 just a little bit. Here's an entry from the Reagan Diary dated Tuesday, June 11th, 1985. Now listen to this, okay? Listen to this entry from his diary, okay? Had a group of Democratic and Republican congressmen in the Roosevelt Room for a session on why they should support bipartisan bill before the House to give aid to Nicaragua freedom fighters. I think we did some good. Lunch with top 5 scientists. It was fascinating. Space truly is the last frontier, and some of the developments there are, astronomy, etc., are like science fiction, except they are real. I learned that our shuttle capacity is such we could orbit 300 people. This was in 1985. When our known space program, not unknown, when our known space program could haul 6 to 8 people in a space shuttle.
Yeah, I think it cruised 7 people.
Yeah. All right. Now here, after Reagan had this meeting with top 5 scientists, he put in his diary that he learned our shuttle capacity is such we could orbit 300 people. This was in 1985. This was 35 years ago. So just think about technology now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean...
we've probably got ships that we don't know about that could probably orbit 1,000 people.
Or who knows what? We could... Because it seems like I don't have the exact article or anything, but it seems like I read something about a year ago that if I don't know if our listeners are familiar with Star Trek or anything. I'm sure some of them are.
Right.
But it seems like I've read somewhere that NASA was developing a quote unquote warp drive, a faster than light travel, if at all possible. 35 years, and you think about where we came from the 40s to 85, and then from 85 to now.
Right. Well, think about the technology for a second. All right. First, I don't know your opinion. I'm sure you probably share the same as mine. After the alleged weather balloon incident at Roswell, first, I don't think it was a weather absolutely. No. But look at how fast technology advanced after that.
Absolutely.
Leaps and bounds after that.
Not even 20 years later, we're landing someone on the moon.
Yes.
We're landing man on the moon. We have rockets. We have jet engines. We have the microchip. Yeah. We have microwaves.
Yeah. And our top scientist on that was a former Nazi that helped us land a man on the moon.
Yes.
Now, the Nazis, they were evil people. And that's my opinion.
Absolutely.
But as far as technology goes, they were so far advanced, more advanced than us, than Russia, than any country.
Yeah. And that I'm glad that you brought that up, because I'm working on I'm getting some stuff together. I'm going to do a story on the Kecksburg object. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is or not, but it relates to the Nazis.
Right.
And I'm super pumped about it.
Right.
So shameless little plug for myself.
Well, hey, you go ahead and plug away, because there's I look forward to that segment, because
I think it's going to be awesome.
I have researched the Nazi Bell a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fascinating to me about that is nobody says what happened to it after the war was over.
Well, I have a theory.
Oh.
I have a theory.
I have a theory too, but going back to the Reagan story, in 1987, Reagan addressed the United Nations in a historic speech. And one of the quotes in his speech, it goes like this: perhaps we should spend some outside, perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And Reagan said this in 1987. Okay, so if you take all of that, okay, about Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
You take his abduction, his sighting, his vice president, him asking Mikhail Gorbachev if we had an alien invasion, would they help us? Mm-hmm. Reading that we could orbit 300 people in his diary, and addressing the United Nations with that. Mm-hmm. I think Reagan was more than fascinated with UFOs. I think Reagan knew that there's life beyond this planet, this solar system, this universe.
It sounds almost like he had been in contact or has someone that had been in contact.
Exactly. You go back to George Bush. It sounds like to me that he was trying to disclose to the public without actually disclosing.
Yes. And what worries me the most is about the hostile. The hostile, and he keeps talking about that. He keeps referencing that on two separate occasions that I read. And that's worrisome. But it almost makes you wonder because from his first incident in the 70s to the mid 80s, there wasn't much between there and there. No. So you almost wonder if there was some regression memory techniques
that were coming about,
that he were thinking about if he were abducted, what he saw and what he heard and what he was talked to about.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's skin on the back of the hair on the back of my neck is standing up.
Well, hey, I've always found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Especially, and I guess what is fascinating to me is in his diary he had that, and that is available to the public. Now, this is the President of the United States in the 80s. If, you're not going to make up fairy tales or lies and put in your memoirs.
Absolutely.
That was in his diary that we had a spaceship in 1985 that could orbit 300 people. When at that time, the public space program was 6 to 8, And I firmly believe that the United States government has two space programs. We have NASA, and then we have a secret one.
I believe that. Again, doing research on my own, and I kind of go down the rabbit hole on YouTube sometimes. There are conversations with folks that talk about a secret space force that has been part of our military or whatever since the 40s, 30s, 40s.
Now, let me ask you a question. In your research, has it always tied back to the Navy as being over that?
It has, yes, actually it has.
That's I have done similar research, and mine also, it goes back. The Navy's always tied in or mentioned somewhere.
The Navy's name appears more than any other that I've noticed.
Than any other branch.
Yes,
I have noticed that too. So, what's one of the stories you're going to talk to us about?
All right, so I'm gonna begin with one of the probably more famous ones, the Phoenix Lights, which are sometimes called the lights over Phoenix. Something that you might not know, maybe some of the listeners know. A couple of weeks ago, when I was talking about the celebrities that have spotted UFOs, yes. I read that actually Kurt Russell, while flying in an airplane, was one of the people who actually called the Phoenix Lights in. So the date is March 13th, 1997, and there were the Phoenix Lights, sometimes known as Lights over Phoenix, were a series of widely sighted unidentified flying objects or UFOs observed in the skies over the U.S. The U.S. states of Arizona, Nevada, and the Mexican state of Sonora. The lights, varying in descriptions, were seen by thousands of people between 1930 hours and 2230 hours Mountain Standard Time in a space of about 300 miles from the Nevada line through Phoenix to the edge of Tucson. There were two distinct events involved in the incident: a triangular formation of lights seen to pass over the state, and a series of stationary lights seen in the Phoenix area. The United States Air Force identified the second group of lights as the flares dropped from an A-10 Warthog that was on a training exercise at the Barry Goldwater Range in southwest Arizona. Witnesses claim to have observed a huge carpenter square-shaped UFO containing 5 spherical lights or possibly light-emitting engines. Symington, the governor at the time, was the only witness to the incident. He later called the project otherworldly. That almost sounds like the teeth. Oh no, what is it?
What was it?
The teeth. Oh, I heard you talk about it earlier today, and I can't remember what it is.
Teeth, jaws.
No, the triangular, the T-30 something.
Yeah, I talked about it in a few shows. I can't
Yeah.
remember the exact numbers of it, but I know what you're talking
But
about.
that triangular formation almost sounds like that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, why would the military drop flares off over a populated area?
You know, and there are videos of it. It doesn't look like. I mean,
It doesn't look like flares.
just not to me.
Well, I mean, I'm not a flare expert, but if you're going to drop something hot and burning in a populated area, couldn't that
Right.
catch somebody's house on fire?
Absolutely.
Couldn't that land on somebody's car?
And if you were going to do a training exercise that you knew were going to spark this kind
Right.
of controversy,
Wouldn't you publicize it?
exactly immediately, not wait until someone is like, hey, something's going on here,
Well, sorry, we forgot to tell you.
Yeah,
we're-
oh, my bad. No,
no,
I
no,
call
I don't,
BS.
I don't believe that.
I call BS.
I didn't know that Kurt Russell was the one that called that in, but I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, no. Well, see, I didn't know initially either, and then last week I was looking up the celebrities I've seen UFOs,
Right.
and it interesting little tidbit. Kurt Russell's definitely one of my favorite actors
Right,
for sure.
right. I've never met Kurt Russell, but I have met his stunt double, back
Oh,
in
yeah?
the day. Yeah, Dick Warlock. Real great guy. He actually lives in Tennessee, not too far from here.
Oh wow.
He's since retired,
Mm-hmm.
and for those of you that are horror movie fans, Dick Warlock was also Michael Myers in Halloween 2. He's a great guy, great guy.
Very cool. Very cool.
He's told a bunch of stories about Kurt Russell. So,
I want to hear those stories later.
I like Kurt Russell on Death Proof. Crying Kite's got us some more stuff here.
Yeah,
while
I'm
he's
so sorry.
while he's looking into that, I'm going to read some more listener responses to our question of the week. Do you think the United States government will disclose the existence of UFOs or aliens in 2021? We had a listener named Cora Fields said, well, there is, and they already released it in April, but no one paid attention to the story. They definitely know more, but whether or not they release it is hard to say. I guess they will if it's convenient for them. And I kind of agree with Cora, and thank you very much for answering our question of the week. James Carpenter said no, they probably never will, while Joe Harlow said, why would they? Let's see. Listener named Poison Apple said, what if they're planning a false alien invasion or visitation by disclosing UFOs? So that to me, that, I'm not going to call anybody crazy, but that goes along with the fake moon landing theories.
Yeah, which is total.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. We and I told Cronkite before we started filming the show, recording the show, we've actually had some I love all of our listeners all across the world. We have some listeners that are really out there in their own solar system. So
well.
and I'm not going to play those on the show because I don't want to embarrass those listeners. I don't want to shame them or, that's not what we're about. We're not about shaming or ridiculing people.
It takes all kinds to make the world go round.
Yes,
Just
it
remember
does.
that.
Yes, it does. Do you have anything else to add about the Phoenix Lights?
Well, yeah, I was actually trying to find this little section here. In 2007, it reappeared. Mm-hmm. And the Air Force is actually calling this, and the Federal Aviation Administration, we're actually calling this more flares dropped by an F-16. Let's see, and so it reappeared in 2008. Lots were reported over Phoenix by local residents. These lights appeared to change from square to triangular formation over time. A Valley resident reported that shortly after the lights appeared, 3 jets were seen heading west in the direction of the lights. An official from Luke Air Force Base denied any United States Air Force activity in the area. And on April 22nd, 2008, a resident of Phoenix told a newspaper that the lights were nothing more than his neighbor releasing helium balloons with flares attached. What we just talked about. It takes all kinds to make the world go round.
Yeah, definitely.
But, that's odd. You have a lot of people seeing these lights, and the military's official stance is, well, there was nothing going on.
Right. I always like the Phoenix Lights. I've researched it a little bit. I've not researched it that much, but I think that's a fascinating story.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Let's do We're going to take a break, and we will be right back with our last two stories before we go into the news with Cronkite. Cronkite will actually be recording his news here at Bunker Studios today. How does that feel?
I feel like I've arrived, Goose. I feel like I've arrived in, the greatness.
Well, thank you very much for listening. You're listening to HereToChewBubblegum.com, and we will be back after these commercial messages.
You're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum, recorded from a secret location in the city that moves mountains.
Are you a horror movie fan? Yeah, I dig horror movies. Are you searching for a great internet horror talk radio show to listen to? Why, sure, that sounds quite spiffy. Then you need to tune into deadpit.com. It's the original horror talk radio show. Dead Pit is a show by the fans and for the fans. Uncensored and unbiased opinions are the goal of the show, giving fans honest reviews on new films and vintage classics of the horror genre. Make deadpit.com your #1 horror station destination.
Howdy, folks. This is the Creepy Kentuckian from deadpit.com, and you're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum.
And welcome back. Starting out this continuing segment, we're going to read some more Question of the Week responses from our listeners. Our question of the week was, do you think the United States government will disclose the existence of UFOs and or aliens in 2021? Start at Edge responded, there will be a disclosure, of course, only not in 2021, not in the United States, and not by any government official. Angela Heck said, I wish something would come to light where they would have to. What do you think about that, Cronkite?
Well, like I said, I don't know if it'll actually be 2021, but I think it'll be soon. I think they're warming us up.
Okay. Moving on to our next story in our ongoing series. This is the first of our series called The Truth Is Out There, where we talk about UFOs and classified government documents, crashes, or other worldly things. Our next story took place here in Kentucky, February 27th, 1993 in Louisville. Two Louisville Metro police officers weren't expecting to chase down an official unidentified flying object when reporting for duty on a dark February night, but that's exactly what happened. The story says it started out as a ordinary shift, but a simple UFO sighting led to a full-blown battle in the night sky between a police helicopter and a remarkably fast fire-shooting spacecraft. Several witnesses observed the oddity and the pursuit with the police helicopter. No official explanation was given, but some insist it was just a weather balloon that got attached to one of the propellers. And so here you have a skilled pilot in a helicopter and his co-pilot, and they couldn't tell the difference between a UFO and a weather balloon stuck to their propeller. But one of the officers, he doesn't give his name, but he insists the object that he saw that night traveled at speeds way too fast for a weather balloon struck to their propeller. What do you think about that?
It's terrible to speculate that someone would, a trained pilot, like you say,
right,
wouldn't know the difference. And furthermore, those helicopters, they're balanced, their propellers are balanced perfectly, and any variation would cause massive vibrations in those aircraft. So if something were attached, I feel like they would feel it and know that, hey, there's something on our propellers.
Well, and I totally agree with you. And I always find it funny when anybody says the explanation is a weather balloon. I will be honest with you. I have never seen a weather balloon in real life. But if you read all this stuff on the internet, it looks like everybody's letting off weather balloons.
Yeah, and smog gas.
and yeah, but I mean, I don't think it was a weather balloon.
Well, then you're going to love my next story because it's all about weather balloons.
Okay, all right. That's a great segue in. Tell us about your weather balloon story.
Well, all right, so the Battle of Los Angeles. Have you heard about this one?
I've never heard about that.
All right, so the Battle of Los Angeles, also known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, is the name given by contemporary sources to a rumored attack on the mainland United States by Japan and the subsequent anti-aircraft artillery barrage, which took place late February 24th to early February 25th, 1942. The incident occurred less than 3 months after the United States entered World War II in response to the Imperial Japanese Navy's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. And one day after the bombardment of Elwood near Santa Barbara on February 23rd. Initially, the target of the aerial barrage was thought to be an attacking force from Japan, but speaking at a press conference shortly afterward, Secretary of the Navy,
Okay.
Frank Knox, called the purported attack as a false alarm. Newspapers at the time published a number of reports, speculations of a cover-up. When documented the incident in 1949, the United States Coast Artillery Association identified a meteorological balloon set aloft at 1 a.m. as having started the shooting. It concluded that once the firing started, imagination created all kinds of targets in the sky, and everyone joined in. In 1983, the U.S. Office of the Air Force History attributed the event to a case of war nerves triggered by a lost weather balloon and exacerbated by stray flares and shell bursts from adjoining batteries. I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
what basically saying that a weather balloon shooting out.
They said one weather balloon set aloft at 1 o'clock in the morning. Everyone started shooting, and I guess the explosions in the sky made everybody else start shooting. But
I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on weather balloons. I mean, because, when would the best time be to set off a weather balloon?
apparently, any time.
You know,
Apparently,
it's pitch black. It's night. I'm going to set off this weather balloon.
Yeah.
That don't make any sense to me.
So, on the 24th and 25th February 1942, unidentified objects caused a succession of alerts in Southern California. On the 24th, a warning issued by the Naval Intelligence indicated that an attack would be expected within the next 10 hours. That evening, many flares and blinking lights were reported from the vicinity of defense plants. An alert called at 1918, that's military time, for 7:18 p.m.
Right.
Pacific time, was lifted at 22:23, which would be 10:23, and the tension temporarily relaxed. But early in the morning on the 25th, renewed activity began. Raiders picked up an unidentified target 120 miles west of Los Angeles. Anti-aircraft batteries were alerted at 02:15 and were put on green alert, ready to fire a few minutes later. The AAF kept its pursuit planes on the ground, preferring to await indications of the scale and direction of any attack before committing its limited fighter force. Raiders tracked the approaching target to within a few miles of the coast, and at 2:21, the regional controller ordered a blackout. I wouldn't imagine a weather balloon would track in that short of time, would you?
No, I thought weather balloons were just meant to go up, not go change direction. I know the wind blowing and stuff, but it looks like it would, depending on where you're at geographically, you load a weather balloon up, it looks like it would blow east. Because the weather, blows west, west to east in the United States.
Thereafter, the information centered was flooded with reports of enemy planes, even though the mysterious object tracked in from the sea seems to have vanished at 2:43 in the morning. Planes were reported near Long Beach a few minutes later. Coast Artillery Colonel spotted about 25 planes at 12,000 feet over Los Angeles. At 3:06, a balloon carrying a red flag was seen over Santa Monica, and 4 batteries of anti-aircraft artillery opened fire, whereupon the air over Los Angeles erupted like a volcano. From this point on, reports were hopelessly invariant. Now, somewhere else,
this weather balloon had a flare in it.
That's what they're saying. So they're saying that a weather balloon had a flare. But so there goes on to be reports that swarms of planes of all possible sizes, numbering from 1 to several hundred, traveling altitudes ranging from a few thousand feet to more than 20,000 feet, flying at speeds said to have known from very slow to over 200 miles per hour. I don't know of a balloon that could do that, do you?
I mean, it looks to me like you'd have to have hurricane winds pushing that balloon.
You would think.
If it was going that fast.
Let's see.
I call BS on that.
I absolutely call BS on that. But later on, I can't find the exact quote, but later on, an investigation reported that there was no Japanese activity anywhere near California at the time. None.
Okay.
None at all. So, again, we have the Navy involved.
Right.
We have the Navy involved.
Right.
What do you think? I mean, do you think that this is another cover-up, or do you think that
I think it's a cover-up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
it's what it smells like, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, I mean, like I said earlier in the show, you know, to me, the research I've done, when the Navy's involved, that always sends a red flag up to me.
Yeah, and to come out immediately and say, "Oh no, it's just
Yeah. Exactly. That I'm gonna have to do a little research on that story.
It's very interesting.
I'll have to read up on that. I had heard of it, but I'd never, like I said, never done any research or anything on it. That is, that's definitely, definitely.
Very
I mean, hey, this segment, the truth is out there. This is our first series in the segment. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've loved having you here. Hope you're here next Sunday when we do the show.
I hope so too.
We're going to take a break, and you're going to come back with news, correct?
Yep, I've got four good stories and a supplement to one of the stories. So
well, good. Because I actually, if you want to supplement after you do the newscast, because I've got one that I want to add that and get your opinion on this week, and then we'll talk about Edgar Casey.
Sure.
Does that sound good?
That sounds good to me.
So we're going to step out. Cronkite's going to come back with news, and we will be back in just a moment. You're listening to
Here to Chew Bubblegum.
.com.
Do you have a Roku device? Do you want to escape the everyday? Then download the Edge TV. That is the Edge TV on your Roku device, spelled capital T, capital H, #3. Let James, Stacy, Greg, and the rest of the gang keep you entertained. The Edge TV, available now on Roku.
It's now time for the news with Cronkite on here to chew some bubblegum.
Hello, here to Chew Bubblegum Nation. This is Cronkite, and I've got the news for the week. Nokia wins a NASA contract to put a 4G network on the moon. Yes, really. Soon, astronauts on the moon missions won't have any excuse for not answering their texts. NASA has awarded Nokia of America $14.1 million to deploy a cellular network on the moon. The grant is part of a $370 million contract signed under NASA's Tipping Point selections meant to advance research and development for space exploration. Nokia's plan is to build a 4G LTE network and eventually transition to 5G, just like the rest of us. It will be the first LTE 4G communication system in space, according to NASA's announcement. The system could support lunar surface communications at greater distance, increase speeds, and provide more reliability than current standards, the announcement reads. Nokia's research arm Bell Labs provided more details in a Twitter thread. The company intends for the network to support wireless operations of lunar rovers and navigation, as well as streaming video. The network is built to be compact and efficient, as well as specially designed to withstand the extreme temperature, radiation, and vacuum conditions of space. So that's pretty exciting. Be able to talk to your family members while you're on the moon. I personally can't wait to prank call some of these astronauts. Moving along, still staying in space, Astroscale is to test a space junk cleanup tech with, quote, ELSA-D launch in 2021. The mission will lift off atop a Soyuz rocket, technology that could help humanity get a handle on the growing space junk problem. Will get an orbital test early next year. The end-of-life services by Astroscale demonstration, also known as ELSA-D, mission will launch in March of 2021 atop a Russian Soyuz rocket. from Kazakhstan. Representatives of the Japan-based company Astroscale announced last week. We will now have the launch in our sights, LCD project manager Sieto Lazuka said in a statement. The LCD program demonstrates complex and innovative capabilities that will support satellite operators in realizing operations for their post-mission disposal strategies and establish Astroscale as a global leader in on-orbit servicing market. LCD consists of 2 spacecraft that will launch together, a 385-pound servicer and a 37-pound client. The servicer sports rendezvous tech and a magnetic capture mechanism, both of which will get a workout during the mission's time in orbit. The servicer will repeatedly release and dock with the client in a series of technical demonstrations proving the capability to find and dock with debris. Demonstrations include client search, client inspection, client rendezvous, and both non-tumbling and tumbling docking. The main goal is to demonstrate that the tech that could be used to deorbit dead or dying satellites and other pieces of space junk. There's a lot of debris circling our planet already, and the numbers are bound to grow as launch and satellite development costs continue to fall and companies assemble huge broadband constellations in low Earth orbit. So that's been a huge issue with space travel, especially the longer we go, and then in the 21st century, there's everyone has a satellite. The Weather Channel has a satellite. Communications have a satellite. There is a lot of space junk up there, and it is something that's kind of worrisome. So that's great that they are coming up with technology to kind of help with that problem. All right, moving on. So scientists have spotted a, quote, kilonova flash so bright they can barely explain it. It may be a form of a magnetar born in a neutron star crash. Scientists have caught the blinding flash of two dense neutron stars colliding to form a strange magnetic star. The first sign of the massive event was a gamma-ray beacon that appeared in a telescope data on May 22nd. Prompting astronomers to assemble their best instruments. That response was important. Scientists believe gamma-ray bursts usually stem from neutron stars colliding, so they are eager to see as many views of such fireworks as possible. But as observations came in, researchers realized there was something strange going on. The flash included far more infrared light than predicted, 10 times more in fact. The scientists behind the new research think that discrepancy may mean the crash produced something unexpected. These observations do not fit traditional explanations for short gamma-ray bursts. An astronomer with Northwestern University in Illinois and lead author of the new research, Wenfei Fong, said in a statement, given what we know about the radio and X-rays from this blast, it just doesn't add up. Astronomers used a host of facilities to study the event, including NASA's Swift Observatory in space, the Very Large Array in New Mexico, and the Keck Observatory in Hawaii. But it was the Hubble Space Telescope that spotted the extremely bright infrared radiation from the burst that told scientists something particularly strange was going on. The Hubble observations were designed to search for infrared emission that resulted from a creation of heavy elements like gold, platinum, and uranium. During a neutron star collision, Edo Berger, an astronomer at the Center for Astronomy, jointly run by Harvard University and the Smithsonian, and co-author on the new research, said in a statement, neutron stars are superdense remains of exploded stars and the bright afterglow from a collision of two such objects called a kilonova. On to the United States here for some interesting and unexplained news out of Utah. A mysterious monolith was found in a remote part of Utah, fuels speculation on how it got there. A mysterious monolith, which is believed to be some kind of metal, was discovered in the remote parts of Utah on Wednesday, fueling speculation on what the object was or how it got there, according to reports. The structure, estimated at between 10 and 12 feet high, was found by state wildlife employees counting sheep from a helicopter. Utah's Highway Patrol shared a picture of the finding on Instagram along with the caption, "Counting bighorn sheep with DWR this week. During the counts, we came across this in the middle of nowhere, buried deep in the rock. Inquiring minds want to know what the heck it is. Anyone?" Brett Hutchings, the helicopter pilot, said it was about the strangest thing that I've ever come across out here in all my years of flying. Hutchings was flying for the Utah Department of Public Safety, which was assisting wildlife resource officers in the counting in the southeastern edge of the state. We were kind of joking around that one of us suddenly disappears and the rest of us make a run for it. The object drew comparisons to Stanley Kubrick's famed 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey, which saw a group of apes encounter a similar-looking giant slab. Authorities said the mysterious object was installed in the ground in the remote area of the Red Rock with no obvious indication of who might have put it there, according to a press release from the Utah Department of Public Safety. The agency added that if people decide to venture to an undisclosed and remote location, they may become stranded and require rescue. Users on social media were quick to speculate what the object was. "It's the on-off button for the planet," one user wrote. "I love this. I imagine it's an art piece, but what if it wasn't?" another replied. The Bureau of Land Management is determining whether they need to investigate further, according to the release. So I have an update to that monolith story. The tall, silver, shining metal monolith discovered in the desert of southwest Utah, which prompted the theories of alien placement and drew determined hikers to its secret location, has now disappeared, the state's Bureau of Land Management said on Saturday. The monolith was removed by an unknown party sometime Friday night, the agency said in a Facebook post. "We have received credible reports that the illegally installed structure referred to as a monolith has been removed from BLM public lands," the post said. The BLM did not remove the structure, which is considered private property. The monolith was first discovered November 18th by officers from the Utah Department of Public Safety's Aerial Bureau. They were flying by helicopter, helping the Division of Wildlife Resources count bighorn sheep in the southeastern Utah. One of the biologists spotted it, and we just happened to fly directly over it, pilot Brett Hutchings told CNN affiliate KSL. And there it was. In the middle of the Red Rock was a shiny silver metal monolith sticking out of the ground. Hutchings guessed it was between 10 and 12 feet tall, and it didn't look like anything random dropped into the ground, he told KSL, but rather it looked like it had been planted.
So it disappeared.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that the thing just kind of...
That is wild. Let me throw one in here with you.
Sure.
Apologize there for the cough. This one I found a few days ago, and I'm going to get your opinion on this. This is news. So, USA Today reports that dead minks infected with a mutant form of COVID-19 rise from the graves. Did you hear about this?
No, I haven't heard about that.
Okay, now this is USA Today reporting. Minks infected with a mutant strain of COVID-19 in Denmark appear to be rising from the dead, igniting a national frenzy and calls from local officials to create minks' carcasses. While the sight itself is certainly terrifying for the residents in West Jutland, a region in the country grappling with confirmed COVID-19 cases connected to mink, there is likely a scientific explanation for the zombie-like reemergence from the grave. That's what the article says. A Danish police spokesman, Thomas Krinzink, told a state broadcaster that gases form while the body decays, and that forced the minks up into the ground. Do you believe that? The nation has planned to cull all 15 million minks in the country, which produce 40% of the world's mink. Because of the rush burial, their animals were placed in shallow ground, 3 feet down. These have come up.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so their plan is to dig up all these dead minks and bury them 6 feet down or incinerate them. That's the plan that I think the mayor in that town come up with. But minks are with a mutant strain of COVID-19 arising from the grave. Now, my only thought is I could get behind a apocalypse like
Zombie
that.
apocalypse.
You know, what about you?
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of terrifying. So they're just coming up from the ground. Like, are they moving around?
The story didn't say that. They're just rising from the grave.
Well, here's an important question: have we heard anything out of Denmark lately? Are they all in apocalypse form over there?
I have no idea.
They're all mutants now.
I have no idea. I will tell you this though. And I've not talked to a lot about it on the show. Did say that I had COVID and I was in quarantine. I'd always envisioned myself, watching like these zombie movies or the what was the Will Smith movie where he was in New York?
Oh, I Am Legend.
Yeah, I Am Legend. I've always been fascinated with those movies and thinking, man, I would have a great time if that was just me. Let me tell you that when if it was not for my smartphone, I mean, after the third day, I just felt so lonely. I felt like the only person in the world. And my smartphone, being able to text, call, or FaceTime people kept me going.
That would be a pretty awful existence if you think about it.
It definitely was. Well, we're going to take a short break and come back with our second segment and talk about Edgar Casey. And you were just listening to the news. I didn't mean to interrupt your news there, but
you're totally fine.
Great job, Cronkite. Great job.
I'm always glad to have a little input from someone else.
Great job. We'll be back in just a few moments.
You're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. If Abraham Lincoln were alive, he'd listen. But he's dead.
Are you a horror movie fan? Yeah, I dig horror movies. Are you searching for a great internet horror talk radio show to listen to? Why, sure, that sounds quite spiffy. Then you need to tune into deadpit.com. It's the original horror talk radio show. Dead Pit is a show by the fans and for the fans. Uncensored and unbiased opinions are the goal of the show, giving fans honest reviews on new films and vintage classics of the horror genre. Make deadpit.com your #1 horror station destination.
Be sure to check out HereToChewBubblegum.com.
Go ahead and say hello, Cronkite.
Hello, Cronkite.
And as you guessed, we are back. What do you think about the mutant minks that were rising from the dead?
That's interesting. I mean, I like like you said. I mean, we grow up watching radioactive.
Now, if I was there, I would and I saw that, I would definitely be playing Thriller as they were rising up.
Absolutely.
We're going to start off with some listener email. The first one, Alicia from Ohio wrote, to answer your question of the week in regards to disclosure, I think that by sharing videos earlier this year that the government is preparing for full disclosure. I may be wrong, but not much was said or mentioned in the mainstream news after the videos were released. I think they'll continue to release more information as time goes on.
I absolutely agree with Alicia.
Go ahead, read the next one there.
All right, Brent from Virginia says, hello, Goose. I loved last week's shows and interview with the creepy Kentuckian. I'm interested if he does a Google search of the name on the grave marker that he was talking about. Keep us posted.
That was an interesting story. Did you hear about that?
Heard that? I was listening to the show and
right.
then I got sidetracked. I couldn't finish it
out. Basically, what he did is, when he was younger, him and his friend had saw this guy just vanish that was at a grave. He actually videoed the grave later, and I made a recommendation that he should Google that to see if the picture of the man that he saw and the dog comes up. Lisa from Kentucky says, hello, here to Chew Bubblegum. I'm glad that you guys are back and look forward to more shows. Have you ever thought about doing a series of shows on Bigfoot? I think that would make for a great show. We actually had the creepy Kentuckian himself mention the Patterson incident, and I've had a few comments and text about Bigfoot, and that's something that we'll definitely do in the future.
For sure. So Kenneth from Tennessee writes, I don't think the government will ever disclose the existence of UFOs or aliens. They've kept the truth buried for so long that I think it's too late for them to come out clean.
Well, I can see why he would think that, but at some point, you're going to have to come clean.
Absolutely. It's not about. Well, as we talked earlier, if all the technology we had come from,
Roswell,
right. Re-engineer, reverse engineering. How much more can we get from all that? I mean, it's been what, 80 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So, well, let me throw something else by you. All right, think about the technology that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we mentioned this earlier in the show. All right, and we said that the Nazis were far superior in their time frame than us.
Absolutely.
Where do you think they got their technology from? In the 40s now.
Antarctica.
Huh?
Antarctica. I really believe that there was something between the Nazis and the alleged portal
Right.
or alien base in Antarctica. I think that the Nazis were working with or have captured one of these crafts and was reverse engineering it in the 40s.
So you still think that the base is, I mean, do you still think that today the base is still there? I mean, the guys would be old and dead, but do you think that, they died out at Antarctica? I think there's still a base there that nobody's found.
Well, I would still say there's a base, yes, because even today we don't really fly there.
No.
And if there were,
well, and there's some parts I think of Antarctica and the South Pole that you can't. There's no fly zones.
And it makes you wonder why.
Exactly.
If there was hostile,
right?
If there was hostile aliens there, that would make sense. Why we can't fly there,
right?
But I really do. They were coming out of a depression when World War II started.
Right.
Hitler brought them out of economic turmoil. I don't believe that they could have just come up with that technology on their own with the resources that they had
without getting it somewhere else.
Because there was no resources. You know what I mean? There were very little
Right.
resources. I really do believe that they had a craft crash, or they captured a craft or something, and they started reverse engineering. Because you have to remember, the Nazis were the first ones that had they had rockets. They had jet engines. They had
and
missiles.
then their jet engines were far superior than our aircraft at the time.
Absolutely, they had missiles. For crying out loud,
So.
I mean, it's. I just don't see
We
what
could
technology.
talk, we could do a whole show on that, and we will, sometime soon. Our question for the week this week. Okay, we're getting towards the end of the year, so we're gonna do So what's everybody towards the end of the year? They're looking at next year. Okay, 2020 has been a very, very different year.
Up in the air.
Okay, yeah. So we're looking at some predictions. Question of the week for this week: what are your predictions for 2021? You can comment, text, like, share, subscribe on our social media pages on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. What do you think? What's your predictions for 2021?
I would hate to even try, but I'll be honest with you. If we don't straighten up as people, 2021 is not going to be any better than 2020.
Okay. Well, my prediction for 2021, I think this time next year, we will finally see the disappearance of COVID-19. That's my prediction. Okay. What do you think? Like I said, you can comment, like, share, subscribe. You can also call, text, or leave a voicemail. It's simple to do, 606-373-3396. At 606-373-3396. You can email myself, Goose, at heretochewbubblegum.com, or
you can email me, Cronkite, here at Cronkite at heretochewbubblegum.com. Cronkite is spelled Cronkite.
And let us know what your predictions for the upcoming year 2021 are. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk about Edgar Cayce, the sleeping psychic. What I like most about Edgar is he's from Kentucky. He was born in Kentucky. For those of you who don't know about Edgar Cayce, he was a clairvoyant who claimed unique ability to channel his own inner self. Cayce's channeling sessions happened in a trance that would induce him with help from a friend or his wife, he became known as the Sleeping Psychic. Some of Edgar Casey's early life: he was born March the 18th, 1877, near Beverly, south of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. He was one of 6 children. As a child, he played the little folk and was alleged to have seen his deceased grandfather. He was taken to church at age 10. He wasn't able to, and from there he read the Bible, becoming engrossed by completing dozens of readings. While reading the Bible in his hut hunt, he saw a woman with wings and told him that his prayers were answered. That's some of his early life stuff. And we went back and forth over this. I have some of Edgar Casey's prophecies yet to come, while you have some of his that have came true.
Yep, checks as you came.
So what we will do is we'll go back and forth. Do you want to start off?
Sure. So Edgar Casey, one of his many predictions that came true was the pole shifts. Researchers at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, otherwise known as NOAA, headquartered in Silver Spring, Maryland, at the British Geological Survey in Edinburgh, Scotland, have alerted the scientific community that their world magnetic model, which chronicles Earth's magnetic field and underlies all modern navigation systems that guide airplanes, steer ships at sea, and create Google Maps on smartphones, is so inaccurate that it is beyond acceptable limits for guiding navigation. Why? Because our planet's molten liquid iron core, which generates most of Earth's magnetic field, is shifting faster than anticipated. The scientific journal, oh no, sorry Goose, I just lost myself.
Oh, you're fine, man, you're fine.
But essentially, so Casey, he says, in a follow-up, he was asking about this. He says, what great change or the beginning of what a change, if any, is to take place in the earth in the year 2001 AD. In a reading 3976-15, he says, there will be shifting then of the poles, so that where there has been those of frigid or the semi-tropical will become more tropical, and moss and fern will grow. And these will begin in those periods in 58 to 98. When these will be proclaimed as the periods when his light will be seen again in the clouds. As to times, as to seasons, as to places, alone it is given to those who have named the name and who bear the mark of those of his calling and his election in their bodies. To them it shall be given. So in, does it say a year?
Over the last couple of years, though, you've had scientists say that the poles are shifting. You've got, Antarctica shrinking, stuff being uncovered. I actually did a news story, I think maybe in the first or second show, that some of the stuff that where the ice polar caps have melted, that there was a flock of penguins or something that they discovered that were, looked like they died not long ago when they were in fact millions of years old. So,
it makes sense if you think about it. The world is, certain areas of the world are starting to warm up more.
Yes,
and I know in the area that we live in, have been fossils that have been found of roots that you're usually found in tropical rainforest. So the poles shifting. Yeah, okay, I could see that.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned our area here. Okay, I guess back in the 70s, we had some really harsh. We had floods. We had some really harsh winters. In the 80s, we had a really harsh winter. The blizzard of '93, and then it kind of chilled out for a little bit.
Yeah.
But up to the last 5 years, it seems like we've had some pretty significant snowfall.
Yeah.
I mean, when we had from 93 to 2015, just dustings or a few inches, but then we've started getting significant. Why do you think that could be attributed to the polar shift?
It's very possible. I mean, when you shift the poles, I'm sure it's going to play havoc on the jet stream and the way.
Well, we can actually meet up tonight about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and send up a weather balloon if you want to.
Oh well, I would be afraid that Kentucky would start shooting things down.
I've just noticed that weather pattern around in our area.
Yeah.
It seems like when we have people say, "Oh, it's too hot in the summer." You'll never hear me say that. Because heat's not good for you, but I'd rather it be warm than
cold. Absolutely. Well, and it's not even the heat that's the problem in the summer around here. It's the humidities.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I'm going back to. What's the one thing that you know most about tropical areas? They're humid, very humid, rainforest type situation. And they found these roots. Geologists found these roots here in our area, 10,000 years ago or something like that, fossilized of tropical plants that aren't here now.
Right. But they used to be.
Right. So, this whole area, that makes sense that it would stay humid and go through several changes.
Right.
Over its.
Well, and I don't think I've ever said this publicly before, but look at how much coal and stuff, resources we have. Okay. You know what creates coal, right? Fossils, dinosaurs, all that. Our area used to be covered with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people don't really think or realize that, so.
Well, and yeah, people don't think about that. They don't realize that. There's, swamplands and we live in a fairly mountainous area.
Yes.
But these mountains are, what mountains do you think are older? The Appalachian Mountains or the Rocky Mountains?
Ooh. I would say they're both about the same.
Well, think about it this way. Over years and years of erosion and things like that, the Appalachian Mountains are actually older.
Okay.
And a lot of the area has filled in around here because of the mountains eroding
right.
from the wind and the water
right.
and things like that. So it would make sense that this area would have more coal and more resources because a lot of that stuff has been packed in and compressed over millions of years.
Right.
This area is just, it probably was like the Amazon at some point. You know what I mean? As much of the resources that we've had here, dead foliage and animals and just compressed and turned into coal and whatever.
That's definitely something to think about. Well, some of Edgar Casey's prophecies yet to come. This is from Edgar Casey reading 244-2, and this one could maybe possibly describe today's time at some point. Will our lifespan as humans be extended? Now we find that there are many changes in the body since we have this, many for good. Many of the organs and the conditions show the changes as come about natural or so-called natural conditions and changes as the body succumbs to the effects of aging or usage in the system. Much of this may be overcome. That's what Edgar Casey stated. His exact quote was, "Man should live longer than he has ordinarily been given and will." Typically today, we are living longer than they did in Edgar Casey's time, where he was born in 1879.
Right.
So, and I read an article several years ago. It's been 2 or 3 years ago. It said that if anybody was alive, like in 2018, they had the chance, based on modern medicine, to live to be 120 or 150 years old. And I think when you get into the 3D printing, I think that could really be used a lot in, the medical field, in mechanics, in, spacecraft, and, could just be used several things. So I always found that fascinating that Edgar Casey said that the lifespan would be extended.
Yeah, I could definitely see that with modern medicine. And, you bring up a good point with 3D printing. I wonder how, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I wonder if can you print organs with 3D printing?
Yeah, you can actually print stuff like that. You can print organs, you can, and from what I've read, I don't think that they've printed a heart or anything, but they actually work. I do know, I don't remember when I read this or exactly what it said, but I think there is a ban on printing 3D handguns because I think some people have been doing that, and they were actually, once they had all the parts, they were actually working.
Wow.
And, I've not messed a whole lot with 3D printers. I've watched more houses be printed on YouTube videos than anything else.
Yeah.
And that is fascinating.
Absolutely.
But just technology right now is just
It's amazing.
it's just amazing.
It's amazing. And we're going to continue to get better.
Yes, exactly. So, what's your next one on the list?
All right, so we're going to talk about World War II. In 1935, in an amazing display of precognitive perception, Edgar Casey warned a 29-year-old freight agent of catastrophic events that were building within the international community. In response to a question regarding global affairs, the readings described an entire world at war. Excuse me. Although not seeing the picture as necessarily an unchangeable destiny, Casey warned that tendencies in the hearts and souls of men are such that these conditions could be brought about. As to the affairs of the international nature, these we find are in a condition of great anxiety on the part of many, not only as individuals but as to nations. So this was, oh no.
But he warned he warned of World War II.
Yes. He warned of World War II. He says, as to the affairs of the international, and to the activities that have already begun, have assumed such proportions that there is to be the attempt upon the part of a groups to penalize or to make for the associations of groups to carry on same. This will make for the taking of sides, as it were, by various groups or countries or governments. This will be indicated by the Austrians, Germans, and later the Japanese joining in their influence, unseen and gradually growing to those affairs where there must become, as it were, almost a direct opposition to that which has been the theme of the Nazis, the Aryan.
Did it say what year he told about this? But he even mentioned the Nazis and Aryan Nation. And,
Yep, 1935.
Wow.
So 4 years before it
actually, wow. That's Edgar Casey, him and Nostradamus have always been. I've always done a lot of research on them. My second one, it's from the Edgar Casey reading 3976-29. What is the shape of the world to come? That was the question he was asked. Decades before the rest of the world was thinking about the enormous impact that China would have on the global stage, Edgar Casey predicted great things for China and its people. On one occasion, Casey told a group of people that eventually China would become the cradle of Christianity as applied in the lives of men. And I guess that one's also kind of happening in today's time, too, how he predicted the rise of China.
Yes.
So, according to the president, it's the China virus.
The China virus,
So,
yes. Move on. All right.
Go ahead, sir.
So his next one was the convergence of communication companies, and the following reading was given in 1929. It's an interesting one on the convergence of large communication companies. These mergers did indeed occur. Also, Casey's description of how varied channels of communications working in a more cooperative and structured manner has come to pass. The question he was asked, will the consolidations take place of the communications company as given in 1928, American Tel and Tel, it's INT, I'm assuming it stands for International,
right.
Tel and Tel, and it comes from 257-30. His answer says these combinations in communicative forces as has been give will take place. Must mean has been given, maybe. Will take place. As to when and how, consider the conditions as prevent such a coalition at this time. Not only are there some of the laws as concerning same to be changed, but many of the larger holdings are to be won over by death even. In these changes, then, these are to be gradual change, and will come about much in the same way and manner as the various express companies came under the direct correlation physically in one form. Not that wars alone are to produce same, but the rumors of many of same, making the necessity of communications in the varied fields to come under one supervision, will make physical coalition.
That's and I'm fascinated too by Nikola Tesla. He had some right-on prediction, not necessarily predictions, but technology in his time that describes the smartphone of today.
Yeah, absolutely.
My last one, and this don't have the reading number on this, it must not print it off for some reason. Will the Hall of Records be discovered? That was the question that was asked. The Hall of Records is supposedly lost. According to readings, people of Atlantis became aware of the fact that their civilization was about to be destroyed. As a result, they hid identical records of the Atlantean civilization in Bimini in Egypt. Numerous readings contend that the Hall of Records will be discovered. So the question was asked, given detailed, what does the sealed room contain? Edgar Casey's answer was a record of Atlantis from the beginning of those periods when the spirit took form. Orby gave the encasements in the land, the developments of the people throughout their journey, with the record of the first destruction and the changes that took place in the land. So he basically said that the Hall of Records will be found. Do you follow the Egyptian stuff that much, like the pyramids and all that?
I used to, but I don't really.
I think back in like 2000, maybe 2002, there was they used ground penetrating radar under, I think, the left paw of the Sphinx, and they said there was a void there. It's been 18 years later, nobody's ever dug it up, but this goes along with Edgar Casey's prediction. Let's see. The question in the Pyramid or Temple of Records mentioned in the readings given through this channel on Atlantis, and this was asked in 1832, as given, and his answer was, as given the temple was destroyed, and there would be that would be the last destruction of Atlantis. But there's claiming now that there potentially could be in that void under the Sphinx, the Hall of Records. For some reason, and I've found this in my research, that the Egyptians, when they find new stuff, they take their time on acting on it. I guess there's so much red tape to dig and to go through and to do all of that.
I don't even think they let you have a camera at the pyramids, right?
I'm not sure. I had a buddy years ago that was at the pyramids, and he got a selfie with the pyramids in the background, but that was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but I've always been fascinated by Edgar Casey, and we could probably spend a whole show going on to him. But what do you think about Edgar Casey? How old were you the first time you ever heard of him?
Probably a teenager. I'm very intrigued how he come about with his predictions. And I'm a firm believer in everything in the world is connected.
Yes. Yes.
You walk into a room that there's high tensions, you can feel that.
Oh yeah.
Or you can you get that little turn in your stomach when you're in a dangerous situation. I'm a firm believer that everything on this planet is connected, from the rocks on the ground to you and I.
Right.
And maybe going one step further, time as maybe we understand it is probably, in my mind,
not how it really is.
Well, it's worked, or it's all linked together as well, and maybe he was just super tuned to
pick up stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I can't remember who mentioned it, but it might have been you and Citizen Joe. We only use 10% of our brain, and I can't remember if he said that or you said that.
Yeah,
but
said it.
that's actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't know about the human brain. Let me ask you a question. When we're talking about the pyramids, do you think that aliens built the pyramids?
I would think I think they had a hand in helping.
Do you really?
I do.
Okay.
And the reason that I say that is there's no doubt that they could move those stones.
Right.
I don't understand how they could lift them to those.
Well,
maybe I just can't wrap my head
from
around
the research that I've did, it all was the sand. They would move the sand up a level. Now, you know how, all right, let's say if somebody's doing road construction around here, and they're going to save part of the road, they cover it up with dirt and stuff to save it. It was basically like that. That's what a lot of people think. I could go either way on that. I could think they could have helped. I could see them doing the dirt thing. No, that's a lot of work. Moving that dirt in, build it up, moving dirt in again, build it up again. That is a lot of work. But who knows how long it took to build those?
That's true.
So
well, and they are they're aligned almost perfectly.
now that is what is fascinating.
Yeah.
Is just the
With Orion's belt.
yeah, and that and the that's mind blowing to me the way that they are aligned perfectly.
And and maybe they were built as a temple for their gods. But that is really accurate.
Yeah, definitely. And there's still parts of the pyramid that we have not been into. People have not been into yet.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating too.
I'm a big fan of Aliens too, so
Okay.
I love watching that show.
I've watched a few episodes of that. I've not watched a lot of it.
It makes you think.
Well, yeah. I like the. I think it's Hangar 51. You ever saw that? Yeah. I have watched that more than Ancient Aliens. I like doing reading and research more than anything else.
And I like a good documentary.
There's nothing wrong with that. Well, Cronkite, I have had a blast. I hope you get to join me next week too.
I hope so too. It's been a blast.
Oh, I have had a great time. We hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. Again, our question of the week: what are your predictions for 2021? You can call, text, or leave a voicemail. Please keep it clean by calling 606-373-3396. That's 606-373-3396. You can email me, Goose, at heretochewbubblegum.com or Cronkite at heretochewbubblegum.com. You can also message us or comment on our Facebook page. YouTube, we have that. You can comment on our videos, Instagram, Twitter. Again, Cronkite, thank you very much for being here. I do want to remind everyone that we will have a very special announcement in this week's, we won't have the announcement in this week's Midweek Moment, but there's a case that we're working on. We will name the case in this week's Midweek Moment. We have an update, so to speak, and you want to be sure to tune in for that this Wednesday. I also want to thank Carlin for all the voiceover work and letting us use the music of Flannery. Thanks to the Creepy Kentucky and Uncle Bill, ST3B at deadpit.com. Our special guest next week will be author, actor, paranormal investigator, and one of the founders of The Edge Studios. I'm talking about the one and only James Smith. Again, Cronkite, thank you very much for being here. Is there anything you want to say as we close?
No, not at all. I thank you for letting me be a part, I've had a blast today.
I have had a blast.
To do more and more like this.
Good. Now, don't forget your homework. Do you remember what your homework was?
I certainly do.
So, what season has more UFO sightings that are reported?
I will find out and have an answer for you either Wednesday or next Sunday.
Great. Sounds great. Thank you guys for listening. You have a great weekend, and we will see you on Wednesday.